Welcome to Hemp TV. On today's episode, we take you to high country, Denver, Colorado, Mile High City, where we'll visit some medical marijuana clinics and tantalize you with a variety of tasty cannabis products. If you could get high by looking at these buds, you would be perma-high. You would never need to smoke again. We will also pay a visit to some of the developers of the latest in marijuana production technology. Who knew? Tell me, who knew that this is what freedom would look like? It's literally out of this world. Then, on a dark note, we show you that the war they are waging is not just a war on a plant, it's a war on people. People. Then we will dispel the myth that pot is a gateway to other drugs, and we'll show you dozens of famous, successful people that use cannabis. We'll end our show by showing a special, heartfelt plea from our beloved brother in cannabis, Tommy Chong. It's Hemp TV. Buzz your friends and tell them to tune in.
Denver, Colorado, ground zero for cannabis legalization, and home to a booming tech sector in what could be called the Silicon Valley of weed. This is high country. Marijuana, weed, flower, bud. Call it what you will, but humans have been using cannabis for millennia. Julie Holland is a psychiatrist who studies the most polarizing drug on Earth.
This is an ancient medicinal plant that was widely used by physicians in America and everywhere else on the planet right up until 1937 when the government decided to make cannabis illegal. And just because you make something illegal doesn't magically strip it of its therapeutic properties.
In 1970, cannabis was classified as Schedule I drug when the US government decided the plant had zero medical value and a high potential for abuse. To hear the Nixon administration tell it, the dreaded weed was fueling an all-consuming wildfire across America. 40 years on, medical pot is legal in 18 states, including Washington, D.C. In November 2012, Washington State and Colorado voted to legalize small amounts of weed for recreational use. With the world's eyes on Colorado, which just greenlit the first ever regulated, taxed, legal recreational cannabis market, Motherboard headed west to see about the new green rush. In a nondescript industrial corner of town is the grow house for Denver Relief, Colorado's second oldest medical pot dispensary.
Hello, Nick.
How you doing?
How's it going, man?
Nice to meet you, Brian.
Brian, nice to meet you.
Come on in. So this is our vegetation room at Denver Relief. All of our propagation and or cuttings take place in here. All of our mothers are in here along the walls on the floor. So we have 35 different strains in the building right now. Most of our strains in here are going to be hybrids. They have been crossbred and mixed. There are a few that are pure strains. For example, we do have Durban Poison, which is an original landrace strain. It hasn't been messed with any, so it's a pure sativa, but there are very few pure sativas and pure indicas that we have in the building. The hybrids are really nice because they sort of can give you the best of both worlds. No matter whether you're smoking it or using an edible or a pill or a drink, they give you a little bit of functionality but also give you really good quality medicinal effects as well. Sure. So these plants are on day 25 in the flower room of a 70-day cycle. I believe there's about 600 plants in this room right now. Our product, when it's finished, when you lay it on a table, next to most underground product, even somebody that has no history with cannabis can just look at it and see aesthetically that it's a much better quality product. We could pop our heads in here real quick. This is the room we're actually taking down now, so you can sort of see how much larger the flowers are on these plants in here. And we'll get a closer look when they're in there trimming as well. These are biodiesel actually, so this is one of our award-winning strains right here.
God damn, yeah. It's so sticky.
Biodiesel was actually ranked as one of the top 10 strongest strains that High Time has ever tested at the Cannabis Cup. If we don't think that it's worthy of winning a competition, then usually it gets put on the chopping block and it's back out of the building. So basically this is one of our smaller trim days. We're taking some of our early strains down that ripen a little bit quicker. So Mike just brought in some lemon diesel plants from the flowering room. He's starting to break them down into smaller, more manageable pieces. But the first step is basically just defanning them. And these fan leaves, they really don't have any essential oils on them. If you look and see the sugar-coated trichomes or the essential oils of the plant, you can see some of these smaller sugar leaves we will use in the edible production. But these get shredded, mixed with post-consumer product, and then they're tossed. So we get it down basically about to like that. Now the rest of these smaller leaves are sugar leaves that do have essential oils on them, so we can trim these off, save these for edible and concentrate production, wax, hash, things of that nature. This is AK-47, which is a really popular strain. So you can see down here, Mike is putting the product on our scale. We have to weigh everything. We have to weigh the actual bud here. We'll weigh the trim for the edibles, and we also weigh the waste product or the stem and the larger fan leaves that have no medicinal value.
Wow, I'm sort of speechless here. This is amazing.
Yeah, the top cola on that's probably a good 8 or 9 inches, and down to Brian's hand there is probably 12 inches, I'd say.
It'll come as no surprise to hear that, for Nick, cannabis isn't just a plant.
It's not really the evil weed that everybody thinks it is. We're dying to get it rescheduled because right now universities and college campuses aren't even allowed to study or research cannabis, which is pretty ridiculous. They're allowed to study cocaine and all of these other drugs. They can do all these experiments and all this research and development on them. And it's really sad right now because we can't do that with cannabis. And I'm trying not to get too choked up here, but I actually have some good friends that have an autistic son. And there's more research coming out all the time about these cannabinoids, the CBD, not the tetrahydrocannabinol, but the cannabidiol, and what it can do for kids that have autism or that are having seizures and all of these other things. And you know, it's just sad. We know that there's medicinal value to cannabis, and the government knows damn well that there's medicinal value to cannabis. And the fact that they don't let our universities research it is, it's a crying shame.
Our government is not that interested in funding therapeutic studies. They are willing to fund studies looking at how bad cannabis is for you. We can only get cannabis from the government. You can't get it anywhere else, and the DEA is making sure that nobody else can grow research-grade cannabis. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 because our government is saying cannabis is Schedule I, there's no accepted medical use for it. On the other hand, they're not allowing any research to happen to show that it has any sort of therapeutic efficacy.
That's why researchers who can't access cannabis will continue turning to casual citizen botanists to help advance our understanding of the plant. Take Leafly, a strain indexing startup at the forefront of weed crowdsourcing.
Leafly.com can be thought of as a Yelp for cannabis strains. It's a place where medical cannabis patients can look up a variety of strains based on medical effects and just personal effects. We didn't necessarily think of it at first as a clinical trial. We just thought it would be interesting to have a place where people can talk about these things. You know, because it's a Schedule I classified drug at the moment, there isn't true research out there. Basically, cannabis breaks down into 2 different types of species. You have your indica varieties and your sativa varieties. Indica can make you sleepy, sativa can make you more energized. But if you know, you have indica on the left side, sativa on the right side, hybrids are everything in the middle of that. Just this month we had 2.3 million visits on Leafly. And they generally come from most states where cannabis is legal, but at the same time, New York and Texas draw huge traffic for Leafly too. Right now, Leafly makes money by working with dispensaries, so placements and advertisements are how we're generating revenue right now. We are getting about $100,000 a month in revenues. We estimate by the end of this year we'll have $1 million in revenues for Leafly, which isn't too bad.
Leafly represents a fast-growing support sector that works closely with the medicinal community, with places like Denver Relief, where product from their grow hits the shelves. This is Kayvon, one of the co-owners.
When was the first time you smoked marijuana?
I was 15 years old. I was in my buddy's basement. It was interesting. Like most kids today, I have attention issues, and it's something that really put me in a place where I could think and get my work done. I graduated high school when I was 16, been living on my own since I was 16, graduated college when I was 19. So I saw that marijuana didn't have the negative effects on my mind and my body that people said it did. And I've always fought for people to have that right to smoke marijuana if they so choose to. This is our waiting room. Pretty typical of medical marijuana centers in Colorado. When we moved in here, there was a lot of break-ins, there were a lot of armed robberies, some hostage situations in the industry. So we designed this with the intent of keeping people out. So we have the bullet-resistant glass, this whole wall is lined in Kevlar. The security systems are pretty robust. We kind of have a casino-grade DVR system. Anybody who comes in here must have a valid identification, so driver's license or passport, and then their medical marijuana license, which is just a little red card. We're going to start to see these different environments that marijuana is sold in. There are going to be places that are geared more for professionals that prefer discretion, that are willing to pay a higher price for better customer service and a higher quality product. And there's going to be those places that are like the shady liquor store on the corner that probably, cater to a less affluent clientele. So this is our sales room. So we'll often bring a patient back here. If it's the first time that they've been back, they'll have filled out an intake sheet that goes over their history with marijuana, what they've used, where they think their tolerance lies, what products they prefer, and our bud tenders will show them products that we believe may help them the best. It's pretty basic in here. A lot of people come into these shops and they think that it's a scary place, that it does fit that subculture, that there is folks in tie-dyes running around, that it is unprofessional. But when people come in, we have about 700-800 people that come in here on a fairly regular basis, and we know most of them by name when they come in, and that shines through.
Looks like this Durban poison is really popular.
It is. This is one of the few pure sativas that are left in the world. Pretty much everything else on the shelf is a hybrid of some form, but this is one of the few, it's almost pretty much a landrace strain from South Africa that hasn't been touched by human breeding projects. So it's a pure sativa, which means it almost acts like a cup of coffee. Our biodiesel, that's what we're really known for. That's what we won 2009 Harvest Cup for Best Medicine in Colorado, and what we were in High Times for last year as being the 10th strongest strain in the world. So this is one of my favorites. It's our outer space.
It's just insane.
It's beautiful.
But it's not all cartoonishly dank bud at the shop. Weed now goes from seed to sale in seemingly countless ways.
Some of our edibles that we carry in liquid form, it's a non-carbonated juice. And it's a remarkable way in which somebody can consume marijuana. Generally speaking, when somebody has to eat, they have to go through the whole digestive process. Right. And the thing that's unique to liquids is a lot of it is absorbed sublingually, so it goes into the bloodstream straight away. There's foods that are healthier and whatever appeals to a different demographic of a different patient. We have people that are gluten-free and only want to eat things that are organic. So we have this product that's organic, dairy-free, wheat-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, and vegan. And it's made out of almonds, dates, apricots, raisins, agave nectar, spirulina, cannabis, spices, and hand-rolled and organic coconut. There is an industry to be created, and it's not just people making pot brownies in their kitchen anymore and selling it to a bunch of friends. What you are looking at is our butane concentrations. Butane hash oil, BHO, Earl, dabs, wax, earwax, peanut butter, caviar, spice. There's a wide variety of colors, there's a wide variety of textures here. And that's based on the fact that each plant is a little bit different, and the oils and the terpenes that go into each plant and the genetics and the makeup of each plant are a little bit different. And yeah, it's crazy that this has turned into what it has turned into as far as an industry, and to see this kind of rapid advancement in technologies as far as using marijuana for people who have smoked it for thousands of years, to see this kind of new advancement in concentrates is pretty neat to be a part of.
Denver Relief is a model for next-generation pot stores. But what else is out there?
I'm a doctor.
I'm a lawyer.
I'm a journalist.
I'm a student.
I'm a teacher.
I'm a representative.
I have cancer.
The outdated laws of prohibition are more dangerous than the plant itself.
I lost my scholarship.
I was fired.
20 million arrests since 1965. This is getting ridiculous.
Our prisons are overcrowded with non-violent offenders.
We have the opportunity to change.
This is costing our country billions of dollars.
Making my family and I fight in a courtroom is difficult enough when I'm already fighting through chemotherapy.
There's no reason to be scared by tradition anymore.
We can stop this.
We can stop this.
We are the American people.
We can stop this.
And you have our support.
We're old,
young,
straight,
gay.
We're every race and nationality.
And we're not going to give up.
You can tax it.
You can regulate it.
Apply age restrictions.
You can create millions of new jobs.
We can save our economy.
President Obama?
It's time for legalization.
Legalization.
Yes.
We
can.
This has been a public service announcement.
Denver Relief is a model for next-generation pot stores. But what else is out there? To the other side is Lightshade Labs. It's something out of a college dealer's dorm room. Fresh popcorn, camp signage, only with a big in-house grow. That's a striking reminder of state law requiring dispensaries to grow 70% of their product. This is known as vertical integration, and is giving rise to an industry model similar to microbrewing.
Fruity?
For Lightshade's head grower, full-on legalization is pressing large-scale grows like his to adapt to their surroundings.
I see a lot more automation, especially on the grow side. We pump CO2 into this environment because the plants can accept up to 1,500 parts per million of it. We're in a city, so you have constant pollution. If you could pull that CO2 out of the environment, store it, and use it in your facility, that would also be another great way to help, your surrounding area that you're growing in.
You have to tell me about what we have here.
Okay, this is Glass Slipper. The main reason why I like this strain is because it's one of our decent yielders, and as you can see, it's pretty good smoke. And then this is the Purple Kush. I like this mainly because of the high it gives you.
You can see how heady weed talk is picked up by all the people who sell cannabis professionally. People like this guy. He lives at the house we're crashing at.
My name's Jacob, and I bud tend all day, daily, basically, for a dispensary. What I do is I serve for the patients. I'm there to answer any questions that the patient might have or may ask. So.
How did you get your job? What does it take to be a bud tender? What are the requirements?
Requirements of being a bud tender, trust is main thing, competence, basically, it is stressful. Customer service, I'd say, is big.
How much information do you think you've sort of soaked up,
Every day, there's 2-3 new patients that walk in your dispensary a day, and I even learn from my patients.
Jacob and a few friends have their own private medicinal grow. Call it a passion project.
We've got, your basic grow operation right here. This is all legal as well. Right here we've got our paperwork too on the wall, which is our plant count that our, doctor prescribed to us. All these white little hairs right here is what's gonna produce the flower, basically, okay? You've got your fan leaves right here. The fan leaves is what's basically taking in all the light for the plant. You don't have to trim the plant, but I typically do, just simply so that it gets more light down under and more nutrients go to the bud.
How do you know so much about weed?
I've just grown up around it, being in Colorado, the Midwest, you're around it a lot.
How is this scene, how has it evolved, and where do you even think it's going?
It's evolved completely just with the exposure of the advertisement, really the clinical research, the facts behind it. Thank you, sir. Just being able to come out with the facts of, what medicinal does for you, opposed to what the rumor was back in the day.
Untold millions of people would kill to have your job, probably.
Yeah, it is nice. That's why every day I can't complain about, being at work.
Jacob really, really likes smoking flowers. But then he shows us the absurd amount of extracts he keeps around the house.
We definitely have enough BHO to last you a month, the average smoker, maybe even a couple months,
They call it dabbing. The high is intense and sketchier than pure flower. Making extracts can get you hurt. It involves dissolving resins off of weed shake or trim with a solvent, and then trying to remove as much of that solvent as possible. So when you smoke something like butane hash oil, you are inhaling trace amounts of a volatile, flammable gas. But Denver's dab scene is nevertheless exploding. Marcus Fauthko owns a company that develops tools for making stuff like BHO. He prides himself on safety.
The danger aspect of blowing tubes or open cans of butane was one of the primary motivation factors for me. You hear about people that had, third, fourth degree burns, comas, deaths, houses burning down, different things like that. So my primary motivation factor was to design and implement an extraction method that was safe.
Marcus and his business partner hope to capitalize on a burgeoning weed support sector, a move that they say is more lucrative and less risky than growing bud.
Brian.
Matthew.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
Doing good. My name is Matthew, and I own Extraction Tech Solutions along with Marcus Fauth. And we build extraction machines that allow you to extract biomass or plant material with hydrocarbons, and allows you to fully recycle the hydrocarbons. I've put cannabis in pretty much everything you can think of. I actually started doing this in my garage back in the day, about 3.5 years ago. So a friend of mine, we had trim. I had no clue what this was and what to do with it. So I started researching. I made butter, actual margarine. I made some cookies. And then I started researching what else I could do.
So what do we have here, man?
So this is the electro dabber. Instead of using a torch, we designed an electronic titanium nail, and it's completely modular. It takes 3 to 4 minutes to heat up, and then it's ready to go. So I do a lot of tinkering.
A lot of tinkering.
My mind never stops.
Do you smoke marijuana?
No, I do not. I have before. I've never on a consistent basis. I don't really care for being high. I guess I get the paranoid effect. I always joke with people, as soon as I can figure out how to get rid of the high and get the benefits, then I'll start taking.
Until Matt starts using, he's hoping Extraction Tech's patent-pending turnkey system will attract buyers. It's quite a process. About an hour later, it's over.
How's it looking?
Looks like a souffle.
So we've seen Extraction Tech's entire process, and that goop that came out over there, after a little bit of post-extraction magic, yields this stuff. This is propane wax, and I'll see you on the other side. It hit pretty good. Tastes good. Give me like five minutes. I'll report back.
At the end of the day, it is about making money. I mean, I want to help people, don't get me wrong, but I mean, we got to make a living. And so the way you make money is you either do something better than somebody else can, or you have something that nobody else has.
Grandpa's got glaucoma, now he's on the witness stand, cause he lives in Oklahoma, where medical use is banned. He tried some marijuana, doctor said he wouldn't tell, but that doc turned Grandpa in, now he's in this prison cell. Should've gone to Normal, that's N-O-R-M-L, normal.org, right from your Dell. They fight the marijuana laws, both federal and state. Just enter in your email, they'll keep you up to date.
This is Chris Walker. A dispensary in downtown Denver is beta testing the latest smart lighting rig by his company, Radiant LED.
They've just harvested their first grow,
okay.
And they're well into the second one.
Compare Radiant's 600-watt LED kits to traditional 1,000-watt high-pressure sodium lights.
So high-pressure sodium lamps are the industry standard, and they have been for years. Any grower will tell you that's the tried and true method of growing. LED lamps are much more sophisticated in that they're more controllable, a lot less environmental waste, more energy efficient. And in terms of the number of growers using them, it's very low compared to HPS. So just like you and I want a different light spectrum, so do plants. And cannabis specifically likes a lot of light. That being the case, every strain might want a specific spectrum within that narrow area. What we can do with our lamps is actually develop those spectrums to optimize the plant's genetics.
Which sets of plants do you think are happier?
Well, I know the LED plants are happier. Through our biofeedback technology, we can literally read the happiness or the stress level of a plant. And eventually that technology will actually be embedded in the light itself, and the lamp will change when the plant wants to see a change in the spectrum.
So I'm noticing an IP address on each of these units. These are what, internet enabled? How does that work?
Yeah, so each light has an individual IP address, and the purpose for this is that we can control the spectrum of each individual light via some kind of remote computer. So let's say you've got 50 of these lights, and something is happening on the far end of your grow, and you want to change the spectrum a little bit, you could do that with each individual IP address. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
It is pretty rad.
One of the bigger questions in this whole story is how is the grow technology that's going to enable cannabis to flood the domestic marketplace, how is that technology going to scale up? We're going to meet up with a guy named Dale Chamberlain. Chamberlain's a former NASA botanist, and he thinks he has the answer.
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavour to develop the practical and the beneficial aspects of space.
Launch of a space shuttle is just something astounding, to say the least. It is something that is felt, not heard.
And to see something that you worked on inside of this, rocket being blasted into space, I can't even imagine the feeling.
The launch itself and the people down there are astounding. So it was an experience, definitely, that was worth the memory banks.
Dale was on a research team that designed grow chambers that flew a number of missions aboard the shuttle Endeavour.
The chambers that I built and designed were only on the space shuttle. Their following chambers went onto the space station. This was a double mid-deck locker configuration. It would fit in 2 space shuttle lockers, and it would grow anything that you would put in there as a seed. And yes, the joke did go around with all of us college students that we should throw some cannabis seed up there, which we'll let the rumor float that whether we did or not.
Dale has taken what he learned at NASA to launch a school and hydroponic tech startup, and it all revolves around a little box.
This is a new standard in growth chambers. Growth chambers before were built to grow your lettuce, little tiny crop, grow your tomatoes, a viney crop that has a different characteristic to it. This is a growth chamber that can maximize production, completely contain your entire life cycle, all within the confines of a small little part of your room. It's locked, completely enclosed, and it's completely set up so that it's automated and you don't need to worry about taking care of it. Just like a refrigerator, but a refrigerator that stocks itself. Inside of this half is the clones and vegetative root growth. Now what we have with the roots is a nice healthy white growth in there. That's from the high oxygen, the high airflow bubble ponics. What we have here with the flowering chamber is essentially open your door and grab a bud. We have the ability to, every 45 days from the veg room to the flower room, have a crop. And doing it correctly, you can every week have a crop. Only half of the enjoyment is smoking the pot. Growing it is just as enjoyable as smoking it.
Wow. Grown right here.
Grown in Colorado. Only the best. There's a lot going on right now in this industry. It's like riding a big wave. You gotta paddle really hard if you wanna be part of the pack. And in the past year, more stuff has come out with grow boxes and growing systems than in the past 10.
Are you in the Silicon Valley of weed?
We are the Silicon Valley of weed.
If that innovative spirit is taking cannabis to sophisticated new heights, how is Weed 2.0 affecting the bodies and minds of millions of Americans who swear it's medicine? To find out, we visited Bob Melamede in Colorado Springs.
Still snowing.
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Bob.
Yes, sir. Come on in.
Brian. How you doing, man?
Good.
Our endocannabinoid system regulates everything in our body. Our immune system, digestive system, cardiovascular system, nervous system, endocrine system, skin, skeleton, everything in our body is homeostatically regulated by our endocannabinoid system. And yet it's not taught in medical school? There's something a little flawed here.
Even if you've never smoked a joint in your life, you have sort of internal cannabis in your body. You have an endocannabinoid system. Endo meaning inside. You've got cannabinoid receptors in your brain and in your liver and your spleen and your bladder and your immune system cells. You've got receptors all over your body for this plant. And so when you smoke, you're sort of stimulating and working within the endocannabinoid system, and you're stimulating your cannabinoid receptors. That helps to regulate your immune system, your energy, your metabolism, your blood sugar. It sort of tamps down inflammation. Your endocannabinoid system does a lot to maintain homeostasis in your body. So there's at least two types of cannabinoid receptors that we know about so far. There's CB1 and CB2. So the CB1 receptors are located all over your brain, and it's actually the most plentiful G-coupled receptor in your brain. Although there aren't any in your brainstem, which means that you can't overdose from cannabis. It won't stop you from breathing the way that you could, say, overdose from pain medicines.
Just today, an article came out describing how the endocannabinoid system was modulating the synapses of glutaminergic and gamma neurons in our brain, and how certain mutations in some of the involved proteins forming synapses in the brain are modified in people with autism. So we see a link between autism and the endocannabinoid system, and that's been pioneered by a woman in California, Miko Hester Perez, who has a severely autistic son. And in desperation, she got a permit for him and gave him cannabis, and it changed everything. So today, after she's been doing this for a few years, we now have a scientific validation.
When people ask me, like, so what's the most important thing you learned? By far, the most important thing I learned was that THC and CBD can kill cancer cells, that they can kill cancer cells while leaving healthy cells intact. They trigger a programmed cell death, which is called apoptosis. And not only do they trigger apoptosis, but they prevent the cancer cells from being invasive, from metastasizing. They prevent a growing tumor from signaling that it needs more blood supply, which is called angiogenesis. So cannabinoids, not just as a treatment for nausea and decreased appetite that happens because of chemotherapy, but cannabinoids actually being chemotherapy, actually treating cancer. That's really exciting to me.
You know, what's so interesting is the medical marijuana community is better educated than the doctors. And I think that what we should all take home from that is that as you learn and understand this stuff, it means we have to make the changes. We have to interact with our government. We have to reshape how energy flows through them so that this phase change will occur. All of us have to participate in it. You know, we want to see the Berlin Wall fall.
I would tell Norm that we certainly ended the drug war now almost 2 years ago in the first interview that I did.
The United States admitted failure and repealed the Volstead Act.
We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing.
Certainly ended the drug war and ended the drug war and ended the drug war, and we're not going to arrest our way out of it. It's not about arrest and it's not about punishment. Ended the drug war.
Happy 420, Colorado. This is from all the pot smokers here. Yeah.
At Denver's 420 rally, the buzz is that history is being made. But look around. I can see why even some proponents of legalization want little to do with this side of cannabis culture.
What's going on today?
I don't know what's going on.
Seems like there's a lot of people smoking weed on the lawn.
This is an event that happens every year in Denver, yes.
Yet despite personally feeling very out of place, the rally is nevertheless celebratory. People just want to get high, flaunt their buds, and be stoned.
Yeah!
So even though it isn't my scene, it's still a party. Meanwhile, across town, the High Times Cannabis Cup is undeterred and in full swing. We see some flowers going around the recreational area. But as with so much of Colorado, oils are everywhere. There are more than enough free dabs to go around.
It's been a tremendous event. First time here in Denver, where we've allowed everybody, not just the medical community, to come in here and let us sample their products. So actually, this is the 10th stateside event we've done, but it's the first time we've opened it up to recreational growers. You know, it's not just the medical community anymore, and that's a big step forward because adults certainly can grow great pot just as well as the medical community.
Do you think we're in the Silicon Valley of weed?
In Colorado? Silicon Valley of weed, I'm going to still say, I have to say, is Northern California. Those guys have the genetics. They've been at it for generations. So much marijuana coming out of there every single year. That's where the real Silicon Valley is.
We bump into our buddy David Bienenstock, who helped organize the event.
I just got a joint handed me.
This holiday has been building and building in momentum, and I think it's a really important thing that this culture celebrates itself because I think people respect you when you show that pride. When you are out and public, that's how you gain the respect of a larger society. And 420 has become this occasion where it's like, even if your uncle doesn't smoke, my uncle wishes me a happy 420 because he knows it's an important day to me. And that's a big part of gaining acceptance. And this 420, after the votes in Colorado and Washington, just a dream come true.
Inside the cup, it's less of a party and more of a trade show. We see some familiar faces from the leading edge of weed tech, all here to put their stake in the soil.
Every one of these booths is somebody's dream. It just shows what bullshit the amotivational syndrome theory is, because these people were just waiting for the time and the opportunity to do what they want to do in society.
Whatever stereotypical idea people have about marijuana smokers, it's only because in a time of heavy prohibition, only a certain segment of that population is going to self-identify, and the rest of people are going to say, well, I really enjoy this, but I need to keep it to myself because I'm part of the PTA, or I have this job, or what will my family say? But when we look at who really smokes pot, it's all ages, it's all races, it's all demographics. And now people really feel like this important part of their life is something they can share and be open about, and it's wonderful. And people are coming to these states to experience that. And what's really exciting about that is they'll bring that experience home with them and tell their friends and say, gosh, I was in this place and I just walked into a store and they treated me like a customer instead of a criminal. And wow, shouldn't it be like that here where we live?
And then there's Jacob, the bud tender. He's been at the cup since doors opened and is heroically high. He's showing no signs of letting up and gives it to us straight.
It's crowded, shoulder to shoulder, you know, but it's nice to see this culture completely expressing themselves, and, you know, you don't see people wasted or fighting. We're all just here for the 420 rally, basically, at the Cannabis Cup to smoke, you know?
Good vibes and free dabs aside, the Cannabis Cup embodies an industry poised to turn Weed 2.0 into a full-fledged cash cow. There are fortunes to be made in the Silicon Valley of weed, which we've realized is not a place at all, but a state of mind. Legal cannabis stands to net an estimated $1.5 billion nationwide this year alone. Over the next half-decade, that figure is expected to quadruple.
Colorado and Washington State have put themselves in a great position to be at the forefront of a multi-billion dollar industry that's going to drive innovation, and that's going to attract smart, driven young people, especially. The talent and the ambition and everything that people say marijuana takes away from you is about to be unleashed.
All of this from a curious little plant that's still federally illegal.
The government and the NIH created a box that they live in. So in their world, the fact that millions of people are using cannabis with benefit, that has no place in the box that they live in, because the box that they live in says medical validity only occurs when you've gone through an FDA trial. And since smoked marijuana has never gone through an FDA trial, it has no medical value. And this is fostered by the DEA, the pharmaceutical companies, the legislators, the whole collection of people that live inside that box that has created their own language, their own words. They use our tax money to support their insanity. And now we're finally paring it open, that buy. Hey, you in there, listen to me.
Our government, who puts cannabis in Schedule 1 and says there's no accepted medical use for cannabis, has a use patent for cannabis as a medicine, saying that cannabinoids are neuroprotective, meaning that if you've had a stroke or you're in the middle of a stroke, that you can use certain components from a cannabis plant to minimize the damage that a stroke would do to your brain. It certainly seems that our technological advances, our scientific understanding always outpaces our policy making.
It's falling everywhere because younger people who've used cannabis, who knows the absolute insanity of the nonsense that's been peddled for the past 70 years, that it's time for this change. And it's driven now also by people my age who realize that, hey, I don't want to be on narcotics and I don't want to be on this, that, or the other thing with, you know, the mile-long list of side effects, when I can take this natural plant inexpensively, and for those who want to grow it at home. We should have that right. How can the government tell us we can't grow a plant? I mean, how ludicrous is that in the land of the free? Free for who?
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one in the United States, the problem of dangerous drugs.
Somebody outside. Hendrick taken. 2 people.
Let me please search for it! Let me please search for it! Don't move! Don't move! Don't move! Don't move! Don't move! Get down! Face down!
We've turned the corner on drug addiction in the United States. Drug addiction in the United States is under control.
Hello, America. I'm Nadia Swaby with the Marijuana Policy Project. Welcome to Marijuana 2-Minute Truths. Today's question comes from Joe in Washington. In his email, Joe asks about one of the more famous claims about marijuana. Is marijuana a gateway drug? That is, if someone uses marijuana, will there be a mental effect that pushes them to try harder, more dangerous drugs? The fact is, according to the Institute of Medicine, there is no evidence that marijuana serves as a stepping stone on the basis of its particular physiological effect. Marijuana does not appear to be a gateway drug to the extent that it is the cause or even the most significant predictor of serious drug abuse. That is, care must be taken not to attribute cause to association. But wait, Don't government surveys show that people who have used marijuana are more likely to try other drugs than those who don't? Doesn't that make marijuana a gateway drug? That's what some government officials want you to believe, but the reality is a bit more complicated. The truth is, prohibition is the foremost cause of marijuana users opting to experiment with more dangerous drugs. Prohibition forces marijuana into the same illegal market with potentially deadly substances like meth and cocaine. Many researchers agree with a study published in the journal Addiction in 2006 that raised the possibility that marijuana's illegal status acts as a gateway by providing entry into a drug culture and the illicit drug market. A drug dealer has zero qualms about moving his customers from marijuana to more dangerous substances. In the Netherlands, regulated businesses are allowed to sell small amounts of marijuana to adults, but are strictly banned from selling hard drugs. And they follow the rules because they don't want to be shut down. It works. In the Netherlands, not only is marijuana use lower than in the United States, but the use of hard drugs like cocaine and heroin is much lower. Prohibition is the gateway to the criminal market. If marijuana became regulated, dangerous drug dealers and marijuana users might never meet again. So there's your answer. Marijuana is not a gateway drug, but prohibition is. Do you have a question for me? What do you want to know? Send me an email at socialnetwork@mpp.org with the subject line Ask Nadia, or you can post a video response on YouTube. Either way, if we use your question, we'll send you some free stickers if you give us your mailing address. And by the way, be sure to click the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. And while you're at it, go to mpp.org/subscribe to sign up for our email alerts to get involved in helping to change marijuana laws nationwide. I'm Nadia Swaby with the Marijuana Policy Project, and this has been Marijuana 2-Minute Truths.
Hi, I'm Tommy Chong. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who's running a compassion club, cannabis compassion club in Los Angeles. And he was on his way to jail. Was actually on his way to turn himself into the feds to face 8 counts of basically operating a marijuana compassion club. And apparently the Obama administration with Eric Holder are cracking down on all the compassion clubs in California, in Los Angeles for sure, and threatening the landlords and the people with jail time and forfeitures and so on. So I think it's time that we started making our voices a little louder in protest. And one really good way to protest is to sign a petition that we have for to free Mark Emery. And so the way to do that, I'm asking everybody out there to go to this website, sign the petition, let America know, especially the Obama administration, know that Mark Emery is in jail for one of America's ridiculous drug laws, and he should be released immediately. So sign the petition, and then go get high. But get high after you go to this site.
Wrap your chops round this stick of cheese. Come on, blow this game and guitar with me. Good tea is my weakness. I know it's bad. It sends me gay, and I can't wait. I'm bipolar.
Thank you for watching Hemp TV, the longest running cable access show in the Quad Cities, now in its 20th year. Be sure to check out these local organizations fighting for the legalization of marijuana on Facebook. Iowa Moms for Marijuana. Legalize Iowa. The Iowa Medical Marijuana Alliance.